This podcast is all about getting divorced without losing your mind, where Corey Shapiro, a seasoned New York City divorce attorney, shares valuable insights from his book, Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind. He'll teach you how to be more creative and less reactive in your divorce. He also dives into discussions with experts and thought leaders on navigating divorce intelligently and calmly.
Welcome to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. I am Corey Shapiro. I am your faithful host on this journey in divorce. I'm helping you be more creative, less reactive. I'm helping you work on your divorce, not just in it, so you can learn a little bit more about the tactics, the strategies. So when you're actually in your divorce, maybe with your attorney, or maybe with your co-parent or soon-to-be ex, or even by yourself, where you have to make decisions, you will make better decisions. And that's what this podcast is all about. How to make better decisions in your divorce, which is going to lead you to, wait for it, a better post-divorce life. That's what we're all about here. So today we're dealing with conflict, a smarter approach to tough talks. I'm going to give you a 5-step approach to become less defensive, more understanding in these tough talks. But before we get into that, let me just pose a question just to frame what we're going to discuss. And the question is, what if there was a way, if you were going to have these heated arguments, but we can diffuse those heated arguments and we can turn them into tough talks. A tough talk is just, it's just uncomfortable. People are emotional, but it doesn't have to be an argument. What happens if there was a way to do that? Would you be interested? Well, that's what we're going to just talk about today. And let me give you the overview of the 5 steps. And when I give you the overview, these overviews might not mean anything. You might dismiss them. But let's just hear them out. So first is offer emotional support. That's number 1. Number 2 is find small agreements. Number 3 is listen for shared values. Number 4 is respond neutrally. And number 5 is ask, don't demand. Before we get into that, let's just do our quote. It's from Indira Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India. I believe the only woman Prime Minister of India. And her quote is, "You can't shake hands with a clenched fist. Can't shake hands with a clenched fist." And I think what she's saying is when we're closed down, we're not in our understanding mode. We're not open. We're not receptive. I notice that when I advocate in court that people have told me I'm pointing, and I've been conscious of it. So if you're watching the video, if you're doing this, your hands, fists except for a point, you're not really listening. You're advocating. This is my point. And, if you could just have an open hand, even then it shows that you might be, open to listening. Think about it also when you speak to someone and if they're, have their arms crossed, they're just shut down. Do you feel they're really listening to you, or maybe they're just waiting to speak about something that interests them, but not actually listening? That's our quote. That gets us going. And let's now just move to our 5-step. But before we do that, note number 1, this is not about giving in. So if you're like, I'm not going to do this, I don't care. I want what I want. This is actually getting what you want in a way that may be different than using, more aggressive tactics, because someone's not going to give you what you want until you give them what they want. All right, let that settle in and understand that. When I went to this negotiation class and I heard that, I was like, yep, that's wisdom. That's truth. So it's not about losing ground. And note 2 on this is a practice. This is a practice. And the idea is not to get perfect. The idea is just to get a little better. And I just want you to get 1% better. 1% better every day for 1 year, you're 37 times better. Wow, what a difference. Now, I've been doing this, I think now over a decade, and I'm not perfect. The people I've learned this from, they're not perfect. And it's just a process. It's just getting a little better, making subtle shifts. Think about this. If you're on an airplane and the pilot just maybe moves the nose of the plane before they take off, maybe 5 degrees to the right. And let's say you're in LA and you're going to New York, just 5 degrees. Do you still think you're going to wind up in New York? No, you might be winding up in DC or Florida for all I know. The point is, it's just these subtle shifts are meaningful. Okay, so with that note, just a quick warning again. If you're hearing this for the first time and you haven't really done that much work in persuasion and high level negotiations and thinking about how to de-escalate situations, this might be hard to hear. So that just started off. The first one again is offer emotional support. That might be counterintuitive. When I first heard this concept, I'm like, what do you mean offer emotional support? My clients are going to say, I'm the one who needs support. I'm not going to give support to my spouse. They're fill in the blank. They haven't done anything. They hurt me all the time. That's what they're going to say. So how can I do that? And I appreciate that pain that you're in. But this is not a therapy session you're having, and that pain has to be addressed in another way. So if you're grieving, and you will be grieving, please use self-care, journal, keep those journals private, as we know, therapy, even in activities like dancing, swimming, something that you can move on. But you're not getting your emotional support, and you will probably never get the kind of emotional support you need from this person in this situation. If you did, you probably wouldn't be here. So you're offering emotional support. In a different context, I want you to think of this as the difference between a boss and a leader. The boss's focus is internal. I need things done. These people do what I want. A leader's is external. How can I make these people better? How can I pull them in a way that's going to make them achieve these goals, even if I'm not around, cracking the whip, in quotes, cracking the whip, metaphorically cracking the whip, right? Because if the boss is not there and you have a micromanager, what happens? Yeah, nothing gets done. Okay, so we offer emotional support. We're being empathetic to the best of our ability. The second one is we find small agreements. What I see usually is people are dealing with the big issues. And it's some of these big issues are intractable. They're polarized. There's no way around it. You can't solve it. But that's what they focus on. So how about we start small on things that maybe are not as emotionally charged? Give an example. Let's say we have a custody battle and we can't agree on which parent's going to get sole custody. One parent wants it, the other parent wants it. They're never going to agree. Right? We're going to need a decider or somebody to help us through this. But maybe they can agree on the holiday schedule. And here's the point. Maybe when they do work on a holiday schedule, if they can figure that out, maybe that will allow them to think more creatively and maybe change their positions on their main issues. All right, the third one is we're going to listen for shared values. Listen for shared values. I'm repeating that because the key or the cue is listen for something shared. So we're ignoring the rest. We're ignoring the noise. I mean, I would say 90% of what I see in my practice is noise. So ignore it. For example, I'm not reading the newspapers really. I'm living my simple life because there's so much going on and I have to focus on my little world and I want to see what I can impact. Can I be kinder and more present and more generous to the people in my community, in my life? So I'm listening here for shared values. I'm not not thinking about focusing on or attaching to the angry statement. So for example, if someone says, the amount of child support you're requesting is too much, I can do X. I would say it's great that we both agree that you should be paying me child support. And you work. It's like you're breaking these things down into bite-sized chunks. It's like if you want to write a book, that's hard, but maybe if you think about it as only writing 1,000 words a day or 1,000 words a week, maybe it's not so hard. Okay. Respond neutrally. That's the fourth one. Respond neutrally. This one is a major shift. And the biggest shift here is you're not going to use judgments. You're not going to criticize. You're not trying to be evaluative. What you're trying to be as neutral as possible. You're trying to be as if you're recording the situation, if you can describe it in a very objective way. And a good starting point for this is whatever is said, just try to describe it with something neutral, like it seems. So if someone's like, someone just got a great birthday gift, it's like, it seems that you're happy. Yeah. Or it seems that you're surprised. Seems that if they look at it and they show a frown, sounds like you're disappointed. And they might correct you. No, I'm not disappointed. Oh, tell me what it is. So I'm responding neutrally, just whatever information is given to me. I'm not projecting. I'm not trying to add anything. I'm just responding neutrally to what is being given. And the last one, and I think the most important, once you get this going, is you want to ask, you don't want to demand. You want to make the other person sort of the expert. So let's give an example. If we're talking about child support and there's a difference of opinion in the amount, you would say, here's my budget. And this is what the income is. And I have such concerns about meeting this budget. Here's the numbers. How do you see this working? Now, there might be issues on the budget. You might have to go to a financial neutral or someone to agree, because maybe they'll disagree. Maybe they'll object to the amount of money you're making. So there may be problems that have to be fleshed out. But the point is, you're trying to get them to be in a problem-solving mode. And if you get them into a problem-solving mode, then they're using their big brain. They're not being reactive. And, yep, you got it. They're being more creative. So I know this is heavy. It's a heavy time having these tough talks. It's something I sort of do more often than most people, so I'm getting used to them. But if you're not used to it and you live in a good life and you're just with your children and you're not in this world, this can be terrible. It can be overwhelming. It really can be debilitating. So I appreciate you doing this hard work and thinking about these concepts. And I do think they're going to make such a difference to really get you on the path to being more creative and not reactive in your divorce. All right, next time we're going to shift gears. We're going to be talking about the divorce budget. And the divorce budget is not just the money, but it's your time, your energy, and your emotion.
Thank you for tuning in to the Getting Divorced Without Losing Your Mind podcast. We would love to hear your feedback. Send Corey an email to feedback@gettingdivorced.org. And if you've read his book, please consider leaving an Amazon review. This podcast offers general information only. It cannot replace legal advice. If you need tailored advice, contact an attorney licensed to practice in your area.